Spear here. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. Today for our donkey story time, we're going to get a chance to catch back up on James and the Giant Peach and find out what new twists and turns are coming up. I also realized in our last video in the background you could see the new toy I got for the donkeys, and I thought I would quickly show you what you were looking at if you were noticing that in the background. We have their brand new toy. You know how much they love toys, and you know how much they love hay too. So today they have their new hay ball, where they get a chance to not only play ball with each other, but to also eat some hay along the way. So you should see, they've got some good soccer games going on right now. Little nibble, little play, lots of fun for them. So if you see them rolling around with it in the background, that is what that is today. Well, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Today we're gonna get a chance to see what James decides to do with those magical little green, we're not even sure what to call them, crystals, special magical beans, we don't know. Let's go ahead and dive on in and we'll find out what happens. Chapter 5. The next moment, James was running back toward the house as fast as he could go. He would do it all in the kitchen, he told himself. If only he could get in there without Aunt Sponge or Aunt Spiker seeing them. He was terribly excited. He flew through the long grass and stinging nettles, not caring whether he got stung or not, on his bare knees. And in the distance he could see Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker sitting in their chairs with their backs toward him. He swerved away from them so as to go around the other side of the house. But then suddenly, just as he was passing underneath the old peach tree that stood in the middle of the garden. Remember, really that's the only tree in the garden other than the few little laurel bushes. So as he swerved away from them so as to go around the other side of the house, but then suddenly, just as he was passing underneath the old peach tree that stood in the middle of the garden, his foot slipped and he fell flat on his face in the grass. The paper bag, oh no. Are you guys ready for this? Oh no. The paper bag burst open and hit the ground, and the thousands of tiny green things were scattered in all directions. James immediately picked himself up onto his hands and knees and started searching around for his precious treasures. But what was this? They were all sinking into the soil. He could actually see them wriggling and twisting as they burrowed their way downward into the hard earth. And at once, he reached out a hand to pick some of them up before it was too late, but they disappeared right under his fingers. He went again after some others, and the same thing happened again. He began scrabbling around frantically in an effort to catch hold of those that were left, but they were just too quick for him. Each time the tips of his fingers were just about to touch them, they vanished into the earth. And soon, in the space of only a few seconds, every single one of them was gone. James felt like crying. He would never get them back now. They were lost forever. But where had they gone to? And why in the world had they been so eager to push down into the earth like that? What were they after? There was nothing down there, nothing except for the roots of the old peach tree, and the whole lot of earthworms and centipedes and insects living in the soil. But what was the first thing the old man had said? Whoever they meet first, be it bug, insect, animal, or tree, that will be the one who gets the full power of their magic. Good heavens, thought James. What is going to happen in the case they do meet an earthworm or a centipede or a spider? And what if they do go into the roots of the peach tree? Get up at once, you lazy little beast, a voice suddenly shouted above James's ear. James glanced up and saw Aunt Spiker standing over him, grim and tall and bony, glaring at him through her steel-rimmed spectacles. Get back over there immediately and finish chopping up those logs, she ordered. Aunt Sponge, fat and plumpy as a jellyfish, came wadding over behind her sister to see what was going on. Why don't we lower the boy down into the well bucket and leave him there for the night, she suggested. That ought to teach him not to laze around like this the whole day long. That's a very good wheeze, my dear Sponge, but let's make him finish chopping all the wood first. Be off with you at once, hideous brat, and do some work. Not very nice, but we did already know that about them. Slowly, sadly, poor James got up off the ground and went back to the woodpile. Oh, If only he hadn't slipped and fallen and dropped that precious bag. All hope of a happier life had gone completely now. Today and tomorrow and the next day and all the other days would be nothing but punishment and pain and unhappiness and despair. He picked up the chopper and was just about to start chopping away again when he heard a shout behind him that made him stop and turn. Chapter 6. Sponge! Sponge! Come here at once and look at this! At what? It's a peach! Aunt Spiker was shouting. A what? A peach! Right up there on the highest branch! Can't you see it? I think you must be mistaken, my dear Spiker. That miserable tree never has any peaches on it. There's one on it now, Sponge. You look for yourself. You stop teasing me, Spiker. You're making my mouth water on purpose when there's nothing to put into it. Why, that tree never even had a blossom on it, let alone a peach. Right up on the highest branch, you say? I can't see a thing. Very funny. Ha ha. Good gracious me. Well, I'll be Bella. There really is a peach up there. A nice big one, too, Aunt Spiker said. A beauty, Aunt Sponge cried out. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper and turned and looked across at the two women who were standing underneath the peach tree. Something's about to happen, he told himself. Something peculiar is about to happen at any moment. He hadn't the faintest idea of what it might be, but he could feel it in his bones that something was going to happen soon. He could feel it in the air around him and in the sudden stillness that had fallen upon the garden. James tiptoed a little closer to the tree. The aunts were not talking now. They were just standing there, staring at the peach. There was not a sound anywhere, not even a breath of wind. And overhead the sun blazed down upon them out of a deep blue sky. It looks ripe to me, Aunt Spiker said, breaking the silence. Then why don't we eat it? Aunt Sponge suggested, licking her thick lips. We can each have half. Hey you, James, come over here at once and climb that tree. James came running over. I want you to pick that peach up there on the highest branch, Aunt Sponge went on. Can you see it? Yes, Auntie Sponge, I can see it. And don't you dare eat any of it yourself. Your Aunt Spiker and I are going to have it between us right here, right now, half each. Go on with you. Go on. Up you go. James crossed over to the tree trunk. Stop, Aunt Spiker said quickly. Hold everything. She was staring up into the branches with her mouth wide open and her eyes bulging as though she had seen a ghost. Look, she said. Look, Sponge, look. What's the matter with you? Aunt Sponge demanded. It's growing, Aunt Spiker cried. It's getting bigger and bigger. What is? The peach, of course. You're joking. Well, look for yourself. But, my dear Spiker, that's perfectly ridiculous. That's impossible. No, wait, just a minute. No, that can't be right. No, yes, great Scott. That thing really is growing. Now, we all know that plants grow, especially a peach on a peach tree, but growing as you can watch it, that is pretty peculiar, isn't it? It can't be true. It is true. It must be a miracle. Watch it. I am watching it. Great heavens alive, Aunt Spiker yelled. I can actually see the thing bulging and swelling before my very eyes. Chapter 7. The two women and the small boy stood absolutely still on the grass underneath the tree, gazing up at this extraordinary fruit. James's little face was glowing with excitement. His eyes were as big and bright as two stars. He could see the peach swelling larger and larger, as clearly as if it were a balloon being blown up. In half a minute, it was the size of a melon. In another half a minute, it was twice as big again. Milo, I'm going to move your bottle away so you guys don't have to look while it's shaking, though. Why don't you roll it this way, buddy? The kids don't want to have to see a shaky video. Okay, we'll see if that helps you. I didn't want you to get seasick there. I'm trying to watch. Okay, excuse me. Let me find my place. In half a minute, it was the size of a melon. In another half a minute, it was twice as big again. Just look at it growing, Aunt Spiker cried. Will it ever stop? Aunt Sponge shouted, waving her fat arms and starting to dance around in circles. And now it was so big, it looked like an enormous butter-colored pumpkin dangling from the top of a tree. Get away from that tree trunk, boy, Aunt Spiker yelled. The slightest shake and I'm sure it's going to fall off. It must weigh 20 or 30 pounds at least. The branch to that peach tree was growing upon, the branch that the peach was growing upon was beginning to bend over further and further because of the weight. Stand back, Aunt Sponge shouted. It's coming down! The branch is going to break! But the branch didn't break, simply bent over more and more as the peach got heavier and heavier. And still it went on growing. In another minute, the mammoth fruit was as large and round, as fat as Aunt Sponge herself, and probably just as heavy. Again, not a polite thing to say at all outside of a fictional story, but of course, we know that the author, Roald Dahl, is trying to get us thinking about these evil aunts. It has to stop now, Aunt Spiker yelled. It can't go on forever. But it didn't stop. Soon it was the size of a small car and reached halfway to the ground. Both aunts were now hopping around and around the tree, clapping their hands and shouting all sorts of silly things with their excitement. Hallelujah! Aunt Spiker shouted. What a peach! What a peach! Terrifico! Aunt Sponge cried out. Magnifico! Splendifico! And what a meal! I still see it growing! I know. As for James, he was so spellbound by the whole thing that he could only stand and stare and murmur quietly to himself, oh, isn't it beautiful? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Be quiet, you little twerp, Aunt Spiker said, happening to overhear him. It's none of your business. That's right, Aunt Sponge declared. It's got nothing to do with you whatsoever. Keep out of it. Look, Aunt Spiker shouted. It's going faster than ever now. It's speeding up. I see it, Spiker. I do. Bigger and bigger grew the peach. Bigger and bigger and bigger. My, you gotta bring your bottle over again. Pause button, sorry. Hay emergency. Hay is definitely important. This story, I know, is making us all a little hungry, too. No arguing about the hay bowl. Excuse me, let me just find my place again. Got it. Then at last, when it had become nearly as tall as the tree that it was growing on, as tall and as wide, in fact, as the small house, the bottom part of it gently touched the ground, and there the peach rested. It can't fall off now, Aunt Sponge shouted. It stopped growing, Aunt Spiker cried. No, it hasn't. Yes, it has. It's slowing down, Spiker. It's slowing down, but it hasn't stopped. You watch it. There was a pause. It has now. I believe you're right. Do you think it's safe to touch it? I don't know. We better be careful. Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker began walking slowly around the peach, inspecting it very cautiously from all sides. They were like a couple of hunters who had just shot an elephant and were not quite sure whether it was dead or alive. And the massive round fruit towered over them so high that they looked like little friends from another world beside it. Little specks. The skin of the peach was very beautiful, a rich but buttery yellow with patches of brilliant pink and red. Aunt Sponge advanced cautiously and touched it with the tip of one finger. It's ripe, she cried. It's just perfect. Now see here, Spiker, we don't want to go and get us a shovel right away and dig out a great big hump for you and me to eat. No, Aunt Spiker said, not yet. Why ever not? Because I say so. But I can't wait to eat some, Aunt Sponge cried out. She was watering at the mouth now, and a thin trickle of spit was running down the side of her chin. My dear Sponge, Aunt Spiker said slowly, winking at her sister and smiling a sly, thin-lipped smile. There's a pile of money to be made out of this, if only we can handle it right. You wait and see. Of course, they would have an unexpected twist. Instead of just enjoying it, or maybe even giving James a little sliver of peach, instead, they're going to use it to make money out of it. See how it goes. Chapter 8. This will be the last chapter for today. The news that a peach almost as big as a house had suddenly appeared in someone's garden spread like wildfire across the countryside. The next day, a stream of people came scrambling up the steep hill to gaze upon the marvel. Quickly, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker called out carpenters and had them build a strong fence around the peach to save it from the crowd. Ollie, why don't you move along too so the kids can see there's a picture coming up? Come along. on, buddy. I'm going to try to move him around so you can see. Here's what's coming. So they're building a fence around, and just wait. Look at the crowds of people about to come. Whoops, I'm sorry, Ollie. Didn't mean to bump you, buddy. Let's see. Okay. So Aunt Sponge and Spiker called in carpenters and had them build a strong fence around the peach to save it from the crowd. And at the same time, the two crafty women stationed themselves at the front gate with a large bunch of tickets and started charging everyone for coming in. Roll up, Aunt Spiker yelled. Only 1 shilling to see the giant peach. Now remember, shilling, that would be thinking about the currency, the money used in England, since that's where the story is taking place. 1 at a time, please. Don't push. You're all going to get in. Hey, you come back here. You haven't paid. By lunchtime, the whole place was a seething mass of women, men, children, all pushing and shoving to get a glimpse of this miraculous fruit. Helicopters, as we saw, were landing like wasps all over the hill, and all out of them poured swarms of television and newspaper reporters, cameramen, and people from the television companies. It'll cost you double to bring in a camera, Aunt Spiker shouted. All right, they answered. We don't care. And all the money came rolling into the pockets of the 2 greedy aunts. Are you being greedy right now, too? Do you want all the attention? You're funny. But while all this excitement was going on outside, poor James was forced to stay locked in his bedroom, peeping through the bars of the window at the crowds below. The disgusting little brute will only get in everyone's way if we let him wander about, Aunt Spiker had said early that morning. Oh, please, he had begged. I haven't met any other children for years and years, and there are going to be lots of them down there for me to play with. And perhaps I could help you out with the tickets. Cut it out, Aunt Sponge had snapped. Your Aunt Spiker and I are about to become millionaires, and the last thing we want is the likes of you messing things up and getting in the way. Later, when the evening of the first day came and the people had all gone home, the aunts unlocked James's door and ordered him to go outside and pick up all the banana skins and orange peels and bits of paper that the crowd had left behind. Could I please have something to eat first? He asked. I haven't had a thing all day. No, they shouted, sending him out the door. We're too busy to make food. We're counting our money. But it's dark, cried James. Get out, they yelled, and stay out until you've cleaned up all the mess. The door slammed, the key turned in the lock. I don't know. Is it possible for them to get any more evil than they already are? It feels like they're getting more evil. Not to worry, though. There are some very big, just like giant peaches, very big and peculiar twists and turns about to come up next in the chapters, too. So we'll continue on Thursday and we'll read a few more, and hopefully you'll get a chance to hear more about how things are going to twist and turn for James Henry Trotter himself as well. For now, I'll leave you with a reminder to keep checking our Google Classroom. We'll be having some small groups for reading that we can do tomorrow. If you'd like to join us, just remember to sign up on the sheet so we know to be sure to send you the invitation so you can join that link. Other than that, keep checking our Google Classroom each day for updates, and keep up the great work, friends. It's wonderful to see all of the examples and work that you're sharing. We really appreciate you taking the time to send those along, and I'm really proud of the hard work you're putting in. Well done. I'm going to leave you with that and a reminder just to continue looking for moments where you can show caring and kindness to one another, just like my donkey friend here. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you all soon. Bye, guys.